Well, first of all, thank you for your kind introduction. I think it is an honor and as well as a prestige for me to talk to such an esteemed group of world-renowned piano teachers. And well, I must confess, I'm not a pianist myself. I do play the erhu for fun, and but I think this is a good idea that the competition this year, because it is a competition hosted in Hong Kong, and Annabella, they come up with this a great idea to have a piece of piano with a Chinese instrument and together in the final stage of the competition. I think this is an excellent idea that showcases the uniqueness of hosting such an international competition in Hong Kong. And so the instrument we choose is a erhu, and it is a piece composed more than 60 years ago. So I think today I just want to share my little knowledge about this piece, and then I hope it can help jury members and participants in the competition have some basic knowledge about the piece. And then, of course, I think interpretation of any music is open, and everyone can have their own understanding and interpretation of the same piece. But we assume not many people may be familiar with this is a piece for erhu and piano. So I hope my presentation today can help us to have a slightly better understanding of the piece. So to begin my presentation, let's share my screen first.
We have them.
Yes, we can.
So we can roll
Yes.
down. Okay, let me just see. Okay, we can roll it down. I'll do.
Okay, so can all of you see the screen?
Yes.
The title of the piece is the Simon Gorge Capriccio. The composer is Liu Wenjin. The piece was first completed in 1960. And now, before we talk about this piece, there's something that we need to understand about a very brief history about modern Chinese instrumental music. We know that the major repertoire for piano and this core tradition in piano music, mostly from Europe before the 20th century, and has a very long history of at least 200 to 300 years. And then before that, we have other instruments that they have a even longer history. But for Chinese music, before we have music like this, music in China was mostly traditional music. It was only until the 20th century that the kind of music that we are talking about today had begun to develop. And during that time, a very important characteristics of this type of a modern Chinese instrumental music is that we have composers, musicians, they borrow concept, structural elements, performance techniques, practices, aesthetic perception, performance context from Western music, particularly classical music, and it only began in the 1920s. So it has a history of just around a century, so 100 years around. And a very important figure, his name is Liu Tianhua. He was the first one who composed 10 solo works for the erhu between 1924 to 1932. Before that, we did have people playing the erhu, but there was no such idea like a composer who composed music, and we have a solo piece for a particular instrument. This is an idea basically brought from the West. In China, before the time of Liu Tianhua, simply we did not have this idea of having a composer composing music, and then someone will perform that piece. So Liu Tianhua, he was the first one who composed 10 pieces for the erhu in the early 20th centuries. And basically the idea of what we call modern Chinese instrumental music actually combines Western and Chinese musical elements and musical sources from folk music, structural principles influenced by traditional music in China, as well as other aesthetic and contextual concepts inspired by Chinese literature and arts are being assimilated with other features borrowed from Western music of a variety of styles. So this is basically just to put in a very brief introduction about what we call modern Chinese instrumental music. And the piece we are talking about today is basically out from this development in the early 20th century. So let's move to the composer. The composer for this piece is Liu Wenjin. He is generally considered one of the most prominent composers of modern Chinese instrumental music. He himself was born in Hebei province. Hebei province is the province around Beijing. But his ancestors was actually from Henan. Henan is a province just south of Hebei, which is also part of the locations in northern China. And in 1959, Liu Wenjin composed his first piece for erhu and piano. The title of that piece is Northern Henan Ballad. And then the next year in 1960, he finished his second piece for erhu and piano, the Simon Gorge Caprice, which is the piece we are going to listen in the composition. When he composed these two pieces, at that time he was still a year 2 and year 3 student studying composition at the Central Conservatory of Music in Beijing. And later he continued to compose many instrumental work for Chinese orchestra, for other Chinese instruments, particularly music for the erhu. And one of his works, which is a concerto for erhu and Chinese orchestra, titled The Great War Caprice, was completed in 1982. That piece is generally considered as one of the most important works in the history of Chinese music of the 20th century. And actually the erhu master that we have invited for this competition, Miss Shaolin, she will perform together with the 6 finalists for the Simon Gorge Capriccio in the final. Miss Shaolin, she has actually performed this concerto under the baton of the composer about 15 years ago in Hong Kong. So Miss Shaolin, she knows about the composer and music of the composer quite well. And actually, I was in the Chinese orchestra when the composer came to Hong Kong and performed the Great War Caprice Concerto with Shaolin in Hong Kong 15 years ago. Okay, let's talk about the piece itself. Now, I've mentioned Liu Wenjin completed his first piece for erhu and piano, the Northern Henan Ballad, in 1959, when he was still studying composition at the Central Conservatory. And for the piece that we are talking about, the Simon Gorge Caprice, he completed this second piece the next year. The title of the piece, Simon Gorge, is actually referring to a very major water conservancy project located at the Simon Gorge, which is on the middle course of the Yellow River. The piece was completed in 1960, but the premiere of the piece was taken place in the next year, the following year in 1961, by Wang Guotong on the erhu and Zhou Guangren on the piano, also at the Central Conservatory of Music. I don't know, some of you may have met Professor Wang before. Wang Guotong, he once served as the head of Chinese music at my Academy for Performing Arts. I think Eleanor may know Professor Wang. Before that, he was the head of Chinese music at Central Conservatory before he came to Hong Kong, I think in 1991, and then he served as the head of Chinese music here in the Academy. So actually, I had worked with Professor Wang for a few years, and he was actually the one who made this piece famous all around China. And now, if we want to have a very brief understanding of the musical style of this piece, basically, both pieces, these are first two pieces for erhu and piano composed by Liu Wenjin, the Lofton Helan Balang and the Simon Gorge Capriccio, inspired by folk music from the composer's own native land, which is the Helan province. And you can find many characteristics of folk music in these two pieces. But curiously, unlike some other composers, we have, I think, many composers, if they are talking about composing music, borrowing musical features and elements from folk music, compositional technique quite often employed is to have some direct quotation from folk music. For Liu Wenjin, this is not his choice. What you can find in these two pieces is that you can find characteristics of folk music, but the composer did not employ any direct quotation from any folk songs or melodies from traditional opera in these two pieces. But anyone who listens to the music and familiar with the folk music from that area can recognize, okay, the musical style is actually generated from these characteristics in folk music. So that's why I think this is one of the particular features that make these two pieces so unique, because both works are considered as examples that successfully combine Western compositional techniques, principles, with pivotal elements and indigenous characters in Chinese music, but not a direct quotation. Instead, you can imagine the composer in these two works and in other subsequent works for erhu and other Chinese instruments. He is considered as one of the most prominent composers is his ability to assimilate Western compositional concepts and technique together with characteristics in Chinese music, but not to have some direct quotation and then some arrangement. But listener can identify this combination of Western concept and techniques, ideas with together with these Chinese elements. So I think this is one of the major features that make these two pieces, and particularly the piece that we are going to listen in the competition, so unique. Now let's talk a little bit about that the Simon Gorge project. The Simon Gorge is located in the middle reaches of the Yellow River in Henan province, and now this is something also that I think everybody should understand why the composer chose this subject back in 1960. The Simon Gorge actually referred to a major construction project that involved the building of dam. I think it was the first major hydraulic power project in the People's Republic of China back in that time. And the idea is to build a dam over the Simon Gorge, and then together with a hydraulic power electric station along the dam. Well, we know for over 1,000 years, Yellow River was always a problem for peoples in China, because always there's a heavy rainfall, and that it would create a flooding, and then causing all kinds of damages. So one of the solutions being proposed back 60 and 70 years ago was to create this project, and the idea is to control the flow of the Yellow River, just to make sure in case of a heavy rainfall, seasonal rainfall, flooding, the danger for flooding can be controlled. So the project actually was started in 1957 and completed in 1961. So when the composer was working on this piece, the news that China was going to build this dam and then having this hydraulic power project, I assume was a daily news that the composer can read. So it was the kind of social and cultural backgrounds. And of course, we also know that the period when this project was carried out, it was overlapped with the political movement known as the Great Leap Forward in mainland China between 1958 to 1962. So it's the kinds of political and social background to this piece. So I guess at this stage, someone may think that, okay, if you have such kinds of political and social background, perhaps that piece is a kinds of political propaganda, or there's no, it's nothing really artistically interesting about the piece. On the contrary, I think this is exactly why this piece is considered as so unique and so important. Although the composer, when he composed the piece, he chose a subject that was on the daily news, it was considered as a very important political and task for everybody. Even he chose a subject like this, in the music itself, he still managed to present something totally unrelated to what we may assume, okay, this may be something to do with politics. It has nothing to do with politics. It shows nothing about any kinds of praising the project. It just talks about the longing for good life among ordinary citizens, ordinary villagers. So this is exactly what we can expect, the sentiment being and the emotion being expressed in this piece. So, but I just want to make sure everybody know about the some historical background about that piece before we talk about the musical characteristics. Okay, if you haven't been to China, this is where the geographic locations that we are talking about. Hong Kong is the southern part of China, and then in the northern part we have the you have Beijing, and then you can see the area around Beijing is the Hebei province. In literally, Hebei means northern part of the river. The river refers to the Yellow River. Henan, literally, it means southern part of the river. So the river is also referring to the Yellow River. So in between Henan and Hebei, then you can find the lower reaches of the Yellow River, and then the Simon Gorge is in the western part of Henan province, which is located in a pivotal position. If you want to control the damage of heavy rainfall and flooding through the because Henan and then the northern part of China, geographically speaking, this is what known as the North China Great Plain, which is one of the main agricultural production area in northern China. So you can imagine if there is heavy rainfall and flooding, it will cause huge damage to the economy and the livelihood of everybody in that area. So Simon Gorge is actually located in a strategic position. If you try to control the the flow of the river. This is the place that you will try to construct something to control the river. So this is basically why Simon Gorge was being chosen as the location for this project. So before we go on to talk about details about the music, I'll show a video. It's the composer himself. Almost 20 years ago, he talked about his own music, and he recalled his experience when he composed these his first two pieces. So let's listen to what the composer talked about his music.
经75岁的刘文金，每天大量的时间仍然用于创作。刘文金告诉我们，只有晚上才觉得时间是属于自己的，可以不被任何人打扰，因此也能安心创作。很多人认为刘文金是幸运的，因为他大学还没有毕业，就凭借作品《豫北叙事曲》和《三门峡畅想曲》而被音乐界所关注。
当时有一个非常权威的音乐理论杨荫柳先生，是音乐研究所的所长兼理论家。杨荫柳先生非常赞赏，哎呦，这是太好了！这是豫北叙事曲和三门峡畅想曲，这确实开创了二胡的新天地吧，就是这么讲的。
1959年，建国10周年的时候，正在中央音乐学院民乐系作曲专业3年级读书的刘文金，开始尝试民族器乐的创作。创作题材浩如烟海，究竟如何取舍？也许是因为刘文金祖籍河南的缘故，那里的生活，那里的民间音乐激发了他最初的创作灵感。题材方面，刘文金决定写一部二胡独奏曲。让他没有想到的是，在如何安排伴奏乐器上，刘文金的老师刘玉和给出了一个大胆的提议。
刘文金，别用扬琴伴奏啊，什么这个伴奏，用钢琴伴奏试试吧。用钢琴，因为当时还没有一个作曲家，只是另外的作曲家把刘天华的10首二胡曲子配上钢琴伴奏，还没有直接写钢琴伴奏的，直接写的，这个是个开创。这个刘玉和老师说，用钢琴试试。
刘玉和是我国著名的民族器乐作曲家、演奏家刘天华的女儿，当时正担任刘文金的钢琴老师。他的提议让刘文金很兴奋，同时刘文金也暗暗担心。
但是二胡用钢琴伴奏就怕这个把二胡吃掉，你知道吗？钢琴这个乐器很厉害的，怕压住二胡的。那看主要是创作方法的问题，都是一般您看到的都是用扬琴啊、古筝啊这种乐器伴奏。
钢琴的演奏技巧丰富华丽，富有气势，而二胡则擅长表现婉转细腻的音乐形象。如何才能不让二胡的表现力被钢琴遮盖呢？
因为那不可能钢琴和二胡去奏同样一个东西，起码是要分开，我是伴奏，或者我这一段呢，我是要突出我钢琴是要过渡，是过渡一下可以，但是二胡是主奏乐器不能淹没了，不能干扰了二胡的演奏。
So this is an interview made by the composer. At the end of the interview, he talks about the relationship between the erhu and the piano. He already stated that there are actually some passages that the piano part is important. I'll talk about. I will go back to this later in my presentation. But in other occasion, the piano is actually supporting the erhu part. Because the two instruments, they have a very different character mentioned by the composer. For him, piano is a powerful but also beautiful instrument, but erhu is known for its delicacy. So how to make a good balance? I think choosing an erhu with the piano is actually quite a challenge for all young pianists to make that a very fine balance between the two instruments, and that's why I think it's an excellent choice in a competition. You're not just going to listen to all these kinds of powerful or this very genuine piano playing. You should look for the kinds of musicianship that you expect from this young pianist. So this and I think in the interview you may notice that the one who just suggests Liu Wenjin, the composer, to have piano work with erhu is actually from his piano teacher. His piano teacher, Liu Yuhe, actually was the daughter of Liu Tianhua, the composer that I've just mentioned earlier in my presentation, the composer who first composed 10 pieces for the erhu in the early 20th century. And his daughter actually was the piano teacher of Liu Wenjin, and then proposed to Liu Wenjin, well, maybe you should try the piano. Write something for the piano with the erhu, and do not just use these regular Chinese instruments like the yangqin or gujiang. So you have all these kinds of relationship, and in this presentation, I'm going to transform this presentation into a video format, and then I'll send the link to Annabella, and then everybody can have a look. Besides the recording of the presentation tonight, and because in that you can hear the recording. But this is one of the best video I can find on the network. It's performed by contemporary erhu master. Her name is Song Fei. Song Fei is currently the director of Harbin Music Conservatory, the most northern part of China. And so I'm not going to play the whole piece, but I give you the opening. Have a look at the opening part of this video first. And by the way, Miss Song Fei, she loves to perform the erhu with a standing position, but I don't think Miss Shaolin will choose that. I think I expect Miss Shaolin will adopt a more usual posture. She will just sit on a chair and then play together with the piano. So don't think do not expect Miss Shaolin will play with the piano with a standing position.
There seems to be no sound.
Really? Let me check.
We can hear.
Yeah,
Can you hear?
We can see, but there's no sound.
I can hear it.
Yes, I can hear.
Annabella, Eleanor also cannot hear.
How strange. Because
Yeah, not only Raymond, Eleanor also cannot hear the sounds.
Yeah.
Really?
I can hear also. I can. Yeah.
But I can.
I can hear you all perfectly, but I can't actually hear the PowerPoint sound at all.
Okay.
The PowerPoint. Yeah.
Maybe.
Can you hear the sound from your
Yeah.
side?
Now
I can hear you
can we all
perfectly.
hear?
You're absolutely perfect, but the PowerPoint sound, there was no, from the piano, there's no sound at all.
Let me see.
Very common because this is microphone and the other one is displayed.
Yeah, but we can hear
We can
both.
hear it, yeah.
Yeah, everything.
Not to worry, that's okay.
Gabriela, ¿tú puedes escuchar?
Yeah, I can hear everything. Yeah.
Yeah. There we have a Shaolin is there. Shaolin is in the audience. Okay. Can you all hear?
Annabelle, can you hear the piano?
Yeah, well, I can, but Raymond is saying no. Can you hear Raymond?
No, I can occasionally hear. I can occasionally hear the Urdu.
That's why.
Doesn't matter.
Eleanor still cannot hear.
Eleanor also cannot hear.
Well,
Very
basically,
strange
we'll
because
create a
we can
video.
hear. Yeah.
And then
It's okay. It's okay. Don't worry.
Oh, it's very important.
Yes.
So basically, this we just thought that the first two major themes are being presented in the piece. Now later I will transcribe this PowerPoint into a video format. In that file, you can listen to the whole piece from the beginning to the end. But for the time being, I'll just stop here for this piece. So let me turn to a very important musical structures that we need to understand if we want to have some better knowledge about that piece. Is the concept of this five pentatonic modes that we can find in traditional Chinese music. I don't know whether some of you may have a knowledge about this theory. This is a theory of what we call the five pentatonic modes. It has actually a history of more than 2,000 years, and now, since the ancient period, Chinese music had already adopted the use of a variety of musical scales, ranging from the regular diatonic scale to scales with different chromatic notes. And then the theory to subdivide an octave into 12 semitones has also a long history in classic writings and other theoretical treatises that we can find in China. Now, however, so we may have a different types of scales. However, only 5 notes are used as tonic. That is the main note in any musical structure. In most genres and music. So these 5 notes in Chinese are known as gong, shang, jiao, zi, yu. So these are in between. Well, you can. The easiest for us to understand is the black keys on the piano, which is the pentatonic scale. So in this one, I use the pentatonic modes that we find in this piece, Salmon Gorge Capriccio, which is using, if in the case, using the key signature of F major, the gong, the first note in this pentatonic scale is the F, and then G is the shang, and then A is the jiao, and C is ji, and then D is a yu. So So only these 5 notes can be used as the tonic in any music construction. And the way we name this system is like if we use an F as the tonic, and in the example being shown here is it is the note known as gong. So what we are going to name this mode is the F gong mode. And similarly, if the shang, the G is the tonic for a piece of music, will be named as the G shang mode. The G shang mode is basically similar to a G Dorian mode, which is, if you are familiar with this church mode, Dorian mode, Aeolian modes, it's basically a similar concept. That instead of having major and minor modes, we are talking about modal music. So we can use one of these 5 notes as the tonic center. And a scholar, Barbara Mitter, that's why he labeled these features in Chinese music as particularly for modern Chinese instrumental music developed since the 20th century. She coined this as pentatonic romanticism, because at that time, when we talk about Liu Wenjin and all these composers who started to compose music in the early 20th century, one of the musical styles when they borrow something from the West, we are basically talking about they borrow something from the romantic style, romantic period, particularly the late 19th century nationalist style from Europe. So Barbara Mitter actually label these features in modern Chinese instrumental music as a pentatonic romanticism. So these are the most being used in this Simon Gauge Capriccio. It used when the music is noted with the key signature of F major with 1 fret. Basically, the mode being used is using the note D as the tonic. And in this case, the D is in the theory of the 5 mode. The name of that the note is a Yu. So that's why in this case, for music in the erhu and piano piece, when the music is notated in F major, actually the mode being used is a D Yu mode. And similarly, other sections when the music is notated in G major with 1 sharp, actually the music is also using D as the tonic. But in this case, the note D is well, in Western music sense, this is the dominant note, and in the previous case, the D is actually the submedian note in the scale. In the case of a music notated in G major with 1 sharp, the D is also the tonic, but in this case it will be the D Ji mode. And then the third mode, pentatonic mode being used in this piece is the passage notated in B flat. In B flat, and then you can see in this case F is the tonic, so this is known as the F Ji mode. So these are basically the 3 pentatonic modes being used in this piece. Now, later in the PowerPoint, I think I'll mention about the overall structure first. Actually, I have provided a chart. This is the opening sections, and then this is the second half of the piece. I think for these 2 diagrams, you can have a more detailed reading and observation later when we send out the PowerPoint and the materials for you to have a look. But let me go back to the overall structure. So basically the piece, well, there's actually several ways to interpret the overall musical form of the piece. The opening section is returned at the end. So, and in between we have 2 contrasting sections, B and C. And the A section is notated in G major. I have talked about the section notated in G major is in the D Zi mode. And then there is a modulatory section in the D Yu mode that led to section B. And section B is notated in B flat. And then the mode being used is the F Ji mode. and then section C is notated also with one fret, but you can imagine the D remote as the D minor in the major minor mode system. And then when the A section is returned, it goes back to the D mode, also notated in G major. And then if we look at these 4 major sections, A, B, C, and A pi, section A is actually having a ternary structure. You have a theme A. We have just stopped at the part in the previous video on theme B, and then theme A will be returned later in that section. In section B, also shows a ternary structure. We have a theme C, and then in between with a theme D, and then theme C will return later in this section B, also creating a ternary structure. And then section C is actually leading to the climax of the whole piece, and it is basically a presentation of the same theme, musical theme for 3 times. Each time when the theme is coming back, the music becomes more emotional, and then at the end, when the erhu solo part reaches its climax, it will be followed immediately by the piano, and then piano is actually the one responsible to bring the biggest climax of the piece, not the erhu actually, because I think the composer Liu Wenjing, he understands if he tries to create a real climax for the whole piece, it would be the piano. That the pianist will play with the most power to bring the whole piece to its climax and then back to the concluding section. So this is basically the overall structure of the piece. So how are we going to look at these 4 sections? The ABC A pi formal structure. Now, first of all, it can be interpreted as a combined ternary form, with A and A pi as the returning section, and then B and C are actually 2 contrasting sections that together, because these 2 sections are also presented in a new key other than A and A pi. So in a way, we can understand this piece as in a combined binary form structure. B and C together are actually 2 contrasting sections. Interestingly, in many modern compositions for Chinese instrumental music, people and composers, they also borrow various kinds of artistic and aesthetics concepts from different types of Chinese traditional literature and arts. For this structure A, B, C, and then return of A, there's actually a very commonly used structure that we can find in traditional Chinese poetry and prose writing, which is called the introduction, development, contrast, and conclusion structure. In Chinese, what we call 起承转合. So you can also think about the structure of this piece like this, which is basically borrowing a very important a commodifying structural principle that we can find in Chinese literature and Chinese poetry. And well, I've mentioned, although if you look at the music carefully, you can find the use of many Western harmonic language from Western music. Although, and I think you can also purely interpret the tonality and all modulations in this piece purely on the base of a Western tonal music in the major minor mode systems. But it was actually intentional for the composer, for Chinese composer in the 1950s and 60s, to develop a tonal and harmonic language that combine Western concepts and Chinese structural features, which is when I talk about what I mean by Chinese structural features is these are the 5 pentatonic modes system. So that's why for me, I would prefer to analyze and then to understand the tonality of this piece from this 5 pentatonic mode system. Of course, I would not object anyone, because at the end you are going to perform the piece. How we conceptually understand the tonal change is actually an acoustic and practical experience. Theory only serve how we can understand the underlying principle. So it's totally fine if they are not familiar with this 5 pentatonic mode theory. You can just purely understand tonality and modal changes in this piece purely from the perspective of Western music. But if we look at the use of these 5 pentatonic modes, you can also find that I've mentioned the D mode, D 指 mode, and D 语 mode. That means you are using the same tonic note but in 2 different pentatonic modes. And then the modulation of the same pentatonic mode, 指 mode, from D to F. These are actually practices commonly found in traditional Chinese music, instrumental music, operatic music, all kinds of traditional Chinese music. That means that we do find the use of modulation in traditional Chinese music. But this modulation can only be understood under this 5 pentatonic mode theory. And then the other harmonic language used in the piece is comparable to music of the late 19th century and early 20th century. They use the use of a modal harmony and nationalistic musical styles and harmonic language. I think here, if we look at the music of Ravel and other composers, Debussy, all these composers, it's not something new to us that composers in Europe and elsewhere are starting in 19th century. Actually, there's a return of this modal usage in music, combining with what we know as the common practice harmonic language, the major minor mode system. So this is basically what I try to do is to highlight these sections that I've mentioned in the piece. This is the A section and the B section. And then underneath, you can see the bottom part of this chart. I try to highlight some of the, because at the end, this piece, a very important characteristic, this is what we call a programmatic piece. The music, it does have a program. So here, what I try to do is to highlight some of the programmatic contents, possible explanation. What are actually happening in particular phrases and sections in the piece. Most of the time, it actually refers to the construction of the project over the Simon Gorge, as well as the sentiment, emotion, expression, and the longing for a better life, because people in that region, what they would expect if they're working in the construction site is after completion of the project, their livelihood will be improved. So basically the piece, different sections and subsections in the music express these kinds of sentiment in the music. So here in the musical character section on the bottom of the diagram here, I would suggest some of the possible explanation what's actually happening in terms of programmatic content in the music. So if you are, of course, I think for music interpretation, all artists, pianists, players, they have their own understanding of the music, and then you can have your own interpretation and understanding of the music. So these are purely suggestions that based on my understanding of the composer and the situation. These are possible explanation of what the composer tried to express or depict in the music. So this is the section A and section B. I have this which section is the introduction, the solo condition of the erhu, and then now interestingly, all section labeled as transition are actually played by the piano. I will go back to this later. So the second chart is the second part of this is a section C and the return of section A to the piece, and you can see the transition 3 is played by the piano, but this is not exactly a transition in an ordinary sense. This is actually the climax of the whole piece. The end of the E2 performed by the solo erhu is actually the climax of the erhu part, but it is immediately followed by the piano part, which actually brings the whole piece to its climax and then back to the more festive and energetic concluding section when we have the return of the A section. So these are basically the overall formal structure. So I think if you want to have a more closer look to this formal structure, and of course we understand music analysis is actually an open-end question. Each performers and anyone can interpret and think about this overall structure. If we are talking about analysis as how we understand the composer to construct a piece of music, I think it's actually a very interesting subject that each one can have your own interpretation and your own formal chart. So this is basically my own suggestion, and I think any artist then can come up with their own understanding of the overall structure of the piece. So now in this for this presentation, I also create a video. When I transform this PowerPoint into a video format, you can have a complete look of the piece. This is a performance piece by Yu Hongmei. Yu Hongmei is also a renowned contemporary erhu master. She is actually currently the director of the Central Conservatory of Music. And this is a recording by Yu Hongmei, and then I had which is actually from extract from a commercial CD. But for this, I actually create a video with the score. So when you listen to this video, you can listen to the performance of Yu Hongmei together with the score. So let me also play the opening parts. So in this video, actually, you can move forward and then have a look at other parts. So let me show you the perhaps the beginning of the B section here, which is a very interesting part because the opening of the B section features a solo passage by the piano first. Here we go. So this is the opening of the B section. And if I move forward, you can see, let's move to the beginning of the C section. Now here we go. There's actually you can see in the score here, the piano part actually imitate the kinds of percussion music that you can find in operatic music that we introduce to a fast section. So let's listen to this part. And then if I continue, we can go to the climax of the whole piece. Oh, here we go. Now you can see this is the A section return here. You can see the climax of the piece is actually brought by the piano part. So I will share this video later, and Annabella can send you all of you who are interested in this the video link to the whole PowerPoint presentation, and with that you can watch the whole video as a whole. Let's talk about some of the major characteristics. From my perspective as an erhu player, not as a pianist. Now, piano parts in this piece generally serve two main functions on top of accompanying the erhu part. Of course, when the erhu part assume the main position, the piano part will serve as a kind of accompaniment. But other than that, something very important for the piano part in this piece is almost in every major sections, it begins with the piano part. The piano part is the one who established the expressive sentiment and emotional imagination for the erhu part. So, so it's not just a accompaniment for me. It's when the erhu start to play. Before that, it is the responsibility of the piano part who should create the kinds of sentiment and emotional basis for the erhu to start the music. So in this sense, I think the piano part is very important, particularly if we are thinking about there's all kinds of these very drastic emotional changes in the piece, and and so this is a very important. For example, the opening section of section A, the section that you have a rather rubato rhythm, it actually depicts different images of the Red River, and the octave doubling that follows the erhu cadenza line opening phrase need to express the emotional feeling of people when they knew of the grand project which is going to start. So this is the kinds of feeling that can only be created by the piano part to assist to join together with the erhu part to create this more floral artistic image in the music. And another example that I have just highlighted when I played the video, the cadenza like phrase played by the piano in measure 166 resemble the character of a percussion music played by the banjo. This short phrase by the piano actually introduced the C section. It should not be section D, it should be section C. It's a typo here. The second characteristic is anyone who listens to this piece will find all these transitional passages, or even when some of these themes are being presented a second time and then a third time, all these music are marked by a floating tempo and flexible rhythmic pattern. I think for someone who are more familiar with the musical style in Western music, I think now we understand in the 19th century, actually people, they did perform music with a much more flexible approach about tempo and flexible and rhythm as well. But in Chinese music, this is actually the essence. Tempo is not something being fixed all the time. Even though if you may notice that particularly for example in section C, when the same melody is being repeated twice and then for the third time, the music actually, the tempo move a little forward faster and faster in a gradual sense. You are not going to change okay, bar 1 to 24 in one tempo, and then bar 25 to 48 another tempo. You can find this a gradual shift of tempo along music, which is something very unique in Chinese music. So in this piece, you can find actually. So I think I should remind all pianists who may perform, and well, if you can perform this piece, that I should congratulate you. That means you are in the final. When you perform together with Shaolin, I think one of the main focus that for any pianist to work with Miss Xiao is to work out these subtle changes in tempo and these are flexible rhythmic pattern, which is very important. That if we want to achieve a very satisfactory performance of this piece, which is if we are talking about musicians who are not familiar with that kinds of performance practice, it may be some kinds of challenge for you. But I think any good musicians should be very sensible to even the most subtle change in tempo and rhythm, and then you can adjust and then react to the music, the elbow playing of Miss Xiao, and then you can achieve a very satisfactory performance. But this is one of the most important features about the piano part that I would consider if we want to give a very satisfactory and successful performance of this piece. This is something very vital. How we work out this floating tempo and flexible rhythmic pattern in the music. So these are examples that I have just highlighted when I play the video with the score. This is the opening part that depicts various images of the Yellow River, and then you have the octave on the right hand side. You can see before the music goes to the beginning of the real main theme in section A, the octave doubling in the piano left hand and right hand actually serve to heighten the kinds of emotional tension when people know about the beginning of this project, and then it means it could possibly bring better life for everyone. So this kind of emotional contents are being expressed by the piano part. So this is one of the example. And let me show you. If you haven't been to the Simon Gorge, how can we understand when we talk about various images of the Yellow River? Let me show you some clips from I think these are from the Central Television in China, in mainland China. This is an aerial view of the Simon Gorge today. So it's a very short clip. So let's have a look. What exactly Simon Gorge is like. Now in the opening part, you can see also there are also some piano passage that sounds more exciting. Actually, well, the clips that we have just watched is showing that kinds of peaceful, very nature, natural part of the Simon Gorge and the Yellow River. But Yellow River is also well known for her angriness. There are sometimes that the Yellow River just becomes a bad guy, and then it causes trouble for people. So and there are also this. So one of the examples is this is a famous waterfall, Hukou, which is just 150 kilometers north of the Simon Gorge, which is a very famous sightseeing location. Then I show you the video first. Now, interestingly, I find actually these two clips from the YouTube, both are actually made by I think Central Television. I think anyone who listens to the background music added to these two clips is so kinds of modern background music. For myself, I think Liu Wenjin's music composed in this piece actually describe the image of the Yellow River better than the music that we have just heard from these two news clips. So if you want to have some idea of what the Yellow River looks like in its peaceful condition or in its more rigorous wild condition, I think you can find some of these images and videos clips that you can have an understanding, and then imagine yourself you are now along the Yellow River, and how could you portray the images that you can see in the music. So I think this is very helpful. Another point I want to make about the piano part, and then the work together with the erhu is occasionally we find in this. I think this is something that you can everyone can notice when you listen to different recordings and interpretation of the same piece on the network. All these erhu major erhu masters that you can find on the network. There are actually part of the music that each erhu master will perform slightly different. The main reason is that there's some sections in this piece that actually the music itself borrow characteristics of folk music, and particularly the traditional operatic music from the Henan province, which is known as Yu opera. One of the most obvious examples in this piece, I think, is actually the B section. Here is the opening of the B section. We just listened to the piano opening part of the piano, and then followed by the erhu's solo part. This is if you listen to a different interpretation and recording of this same section, you will find actually the erhu player will adopt will not play all these 8 notes evenly, and each of them there will be some kinds of flexibility approach being applied to this part of the music. It's because this is exactly the part that the composer tried to portray the music, and adopting musical features that he can experience from his when he was young and when he lived in Hebei and Henan. And so the point is that how can we, if we are not familiar with this type of a Chinese opera, it would be useful if we can hear to some of this. So here I show you one of the most famous repertoire of a Yu opera, which is Mulan, the ancient heroine who actually substitute her father and then join the army and then later he became a national hero. And then I think you have a Disney cartoon on animation on this story as well. So this is the one of the scenes when Mulan was still in her home, and then this is a slow vocal section. You can listen to the music and the accompaniment, which actually the way that the singer, the vocalist, and the accompanist playing the melody, the kinds of ornaments that they add are actually quite similar to what you can expect from section B in this piece, Simon Gauge Capriccio for Erhu and piano. So this is a very short excerpt. I think you can find other excerpts as well, but because quite often we find these are more acrobatic scenes, but this is actually a more lyrical passage from the opera. You can hear the music. The musical style actually is very close to what you can find in section B of this piece by for Erhu and piano. So if you listen to the accompaniment of this excerpt, particularly the accompaniment played by the kind of a bowstring instrument, not the erhu, but another bowstring instrument used to accompany Yu opera, the ornaments, particularly the glissando, all these kinds of ornamentations that you can find in music, you may expect some performance style like this in the B section as well. So if you are not so familiar with the style of that kinds of music, have a look at this. Some video may give you some hint how to work out. And this is a part that I have talked about, the section that lead to section, which is, it should be section C. I should amend this, which is the bottom part, the bottom two column system here. You can see the repeated note played by the piano is actually imitating the bangu, which is the lead percussion instrument in any Chinese traditional operatic genres, which is that's why. So quite often when you play the bangu with this style, one of the main focuses is that you need to play both notes. I think, well, in the case of bangu, the player will use both the left hand and right hand with a stick to play the notes. It should be evenly distributed. And so evenness between the two notes are very important in this case. So these are some of the examples. So well, let me. I think it's almost time. I will conclude my presentation today. These are some of the comments made by major scholars and performers that referring to this piece. Qiao Jianzhong, he used to be the director of the Research Music Institute in Beijing some years ago, and he is a very renowned researchers and scholars in Chinese folk music, folk song and instrumental music. Qiao Jianzhong, when he has written an article summarizing the career of Liu Wenjin, and he called actually this piece Simon Gotch Capriccio is a breakthrough in the history of modern Chinese instrumental music. And Wang Guotong, who is the Erhu master who premiered this work, and actually he once commented that there are actually multiple images depicted in the music, and it may create challenges to the performers, and there's always contrasting sentiments being expressed in the music. So from Professor Wang's perspective, this is not an easy piece, and because of these very contrasting emotions that you can feel in the music, and how to handle this delicately is important and vital to give a satisfactory performance of this piece. And Liang Maozhen, who is also a well-known historian of modern Chinese music, also praised this piece as a pioneering work for Erhu in depicting major social events. Because I think what he meant is that before this piece, Erhu was actually not considered an instrument who was able to express some more serious subjects. It was quite often considered as a kind of a more lyrical instrument and on the weaker side. It may be good to accompany vocal singing. It could be good to express some kinds of very delicate and soft emotion, but not the kinds of very heroic or major social, cultural, or political events. Erhu was not considered as an instrument suitable for that kinds of expression. But this piece of the Simon Gotch Capriccio the piece is generally considered what Professor Liang tried to highlight here is the piece that can manage to express that kinds of sentiment and emotion. That is something that make this piece so unique. So I think this is what I can say about this piece. I think well, if you have opportunity to talk to Miss Shaolin, Erhu master, I'm quite sure she can give you more observations and because Miss Xiao is an Erhu master expert, and I'm quite sure she can give you even more in-depth insights and observation of the piece. But I think as preparation, these are some of the main points and interesting parts about this piece that I can share with all of you. So I will stop my presentation here and see if any one of you may have some urgent question that we can further discuss here today. Thank you.
Professor Pak, first,
Yes.
thank you so much for this absolutely amazing presentation, an hour and a half. And I love the way in which was very importantly, you blended both what was happening in China at the time when that particular piece was composed, because this transcends also the fact that Erhu started having a very different role in the way in which the instrument was being used. This is very, very important components. We are delighted that we have Miss Shaolin also with us, because of course she's going to literally play a very important part later on when this is informed. Now, if we have any questions,
you can see Shaolin
yes.
says Adele.
Yeah. If any of us would like to have any question, please raise your hand, and then I will take it from top to right all the way down, one step at a time, so as not to confuse the issue. If anybody has any questions, please. Okay, Raymond, let's start.
Hi. I was just curious, but was the actual tuning and temperament of Chinese pentatonic scales, unlike pentatonic scale as we know it in the West, the Chinese pentatonic scales don't use equal temperament, or traditionally never used equal temperament. I mean, also if we go back into the 14th, 11th, and 12th century in Western music, where we're actually looking at different temperaments and how you would create a wolf, for example, where certain notes would be out of tune and they would actually be used by composers to actually represent different particular ideas. Is that the same within Chinese music? And a second question, which I'll ask very quickly, you're talking about it as programmatic music. Do you see it as really sort of visually programmatic music along the lines of Moldau, for example, or something less so if the way people represented Zarathustra, for example, the way Delius represented Zarathustra, the way Mahler did, and the way obviously Strauss did, the different ways of working with programmatic music?
Okay, I'm glad you asked this question. I think to answer the first question, this is actually a subject of a great debate, and basically, when this something known as the modern Chinese instrumental music being developed in the 20th century, the intention is to completely adopt the equal temperament system. So there's but it was not so successful in the early years. But I think recently, basically all performers in following this development of modern Chinese instrumental music, they adopt the equal temperament system. So and of course, there are also, if you read from various sources, there are actually scholars who are actually opposing to this trend, because basically when we adopt this equal temperament system, it actually causes trouble if we try to recreate the kinds of more authentic performance style in traditional genres. But when we talk about this, for this piece is supposed to be a modern composition. Basically, we adopt equal temperament system in the music. So I think this is the answer for the first question. And the second question is about the programmatic content. I think for the composer himself, Liu Wenjing, he tries to avoid to have passages or melodic parts in the music directly associated with some kinds of physical objects or events or something like that. Basically, he tried to explain even for the faster section, that he tried to depict the scenes in the construction sites and all this. He tried to express this in a form of emotion, rather than a direct description of events and situation in the program. So I think that's my understanding. Of course, I think when anyone who is going to perform this, you need to work out what exactly is happening in precisely in any passage with Miss Shaolin for the music. But for me, I think the composer he did not try to compose a piece with passages directly linked to any actual events or figures or situation. Although it has all this programmatic background in the music. I hope I can answer your question.
No, so so what you're saying, it's a much more subliminal understanding of program music rather than the sort of tourist guide of program music as you might get in Vatla. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Lovely. Any more questions, please? remember that particularly for the candidates, we will have a video version of this lecture, and therefore you will be able to see the section for, at least for myself. Remember, I don't play the piano, I cannot read music, but I can see how incredibly useful it is to have to have the score and to have the score played and being able to observe, to follow at least how it is interpreted in one particular way. Chris was always a little bit reluctant about that because he doesn't want to appear as if that what we're going to send you is the best way of doing it. This is a way in which it is being done. Okay, I think this is something that Chris perhaps will agree. It is a guide as opposed to a template of how to do it.
Yeah, I think I have also suggest to Annabella that because this is a competition, I think I'm happy to answer any if any members of the jury panel, you may have a question later when you look at the piece with more details. You can, if you any jury member, if you have a question, I think you are free to. I think you can, if Annabella, the organizing committee agree, you can send question to Annabella and then I can answer your question. But for fairness, I think I would not answer any question from the competitors, from any pianists actually participating in the competition. I don't think it would be fair to anyone in this sense. But I think for jury member, if any jury members you want to know more about information or anything about this piece, and then I think I'm happy to answer your question. If you don't have a quick question coming up at this moment, and tomorrow, next week, when you have question, I think I'm happy to answer your question. Yes.
Thank you, Chris. I think this is both generous and very correct. And also, I will need to add that the 6 candidates have generous time with Shaolin when it comes to rehearsal. So in other words, it will be time face to face in front of a piano and an erhu to discuss, not just play through it, but also obviously aspects of interpretation.
You will have time assigned.
You will have time assigned to that.
Of course, for rehearsals.
For rehearsals.
And working with Shaolin. And we will send you all this recording, plus the video that Chris has prepared, okay? We will send you all this material.
I think Raymond has a question, right? Raymond, would you like to ask another question?
Oh, I was just going to say it might be quite useful. I was just talking to my friend Daniel Bimpino, the pianist. You know, he's studying at the academy shortly as well with his new Mozart class. And one of the things, of course, a lot of the young kids, particularly the Chinese kids coming the other way, is they're kind of struggling with the kind of cultural content of Mozart. So he has to embark from time to time. So is it possible for the candidates maybe to be given something short, some pithy reading that they might like to actually look at, so they can actually come to terms with the cultural content of the music that you're dealing with?
I'll try to.
I know that's a big ask. Actually, I know that's a terribly big ask.
Yeah, but because most of these articles are kinds of academic writing, and I'll try to see if there's some articles that talks about development of modern Chinese instrumental music that may be helpful for if anyone who would like to have some more understanding. I'll see if I can find some article, because most of the articles that I know that talk about the subject actually try to look at this from a rather more academic angle. And then
I was thinking a slightly more of a brief kind of social history for them as well, because clearly the content when you're talking about is a social history here as well. Yeah. This kind of thing.
Actually, there's a very short text written by Professor Fred Lau, who used to teach at University of Hawaii, and then later he just retired from the Chinese University of Hong Kong. He actually he has written a book about modern Chinese music, a very short introduction, published by Oxford, I think, if I'm correct. Because
yes.
I think the book is from a series of books that introduce different world musical cultures, edited by Bonnie Wade and Patricia Campbell, I think, the two professors from California and Washington. And then it's a short introduction talking about some of the backgrounds of music that compose the kinds of music. I think well, then maybe I can send the citation to Annabella than anyone if can have access to any major libraries can. I think that book will be fine in any major library.
As organizer, thank you very much, Chris, for your presentation. And as organizer, together with Andrew, of this competition, one of the things I want to pass on as a message to the contestants, please don't get scared with this, okay? We are very thankful that you are willing to have a go and play this music that has been chosen by Chris as an example, something where the erhu and the piano are playing together. Ultimately, you are going to show what is for you, okay? Interpreting this piece, okay, for from each one of you. And when you work with Shaolin, you will be able to just exchange that. And I think this is the beauty of this introduction to this Chinese music, okay? And but don't get scared about it, okay? And thank you for accepting this, okay? And
I will add very briefly something to what Annabella said, and I have to be very careful. This is a quotation from one of our very dear friend. Unfortunately, he's passed away. He was a member of the jury, Kraniev, okay, Vladimir Kraniev, who has said in a different context completely, somebody was complaining about the piano. He says there are no such thing as bad pianos, but there are bad pianists. So in other words, it is not that it is a difficult piece of music. It is a piece of music that can be interpreted, full stop.
Yes. But it's very nice to hear from you, Chris. I mean, all this amount of information you passed on to us, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. It's very useful for the jury to know the background of the piece before we listen to
absolutely
multiple performances.
And that's why, jury, thank you very much for being here, okay? And I was addressing the contestants in the sense that I don't want them to get scared, okay? With about the a piece that is new. I'm sure for most of you.
Annabella, okay. we're looking at good pianists, full stop.
It's actually a very enjoyable piece.
I'm sure. I'm sure you're going to do nicely with it.
Shaolin, thank you very much for your presence here, for staying with us today.
Yeah, thank you, Shaolin, for being part of this project. Okay.
Thank
you very much.
For everybody coming to Hong Kong later this month, okay?
Yes, we are looking forward to seeing all of you and welcoming you in Hong Kong soon. Okay.
I look forward to it very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Stop
Much. Bye-bye.